Hey guys, Okami Gaming here, coming at you with another fun deck tech video. And today we're going to be reviewing Dromai and my build and what I like about the cards that I run for her specifically, and how it can possibly get you a competitive edge to get you those extra wins at your armories or big events you go to. So I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been watching the videos. I greatly appreciate it. It is very nice being able to make these videos for everybody, and I hope everybody's enjoying them. I love to hear from you guys and hear your feedback. But with that, let's get into the video. And so for everybody who doesn't know, Dromai is the new dragon hero of the set. So her whole thing is you're going to be trying to make these things called ash tokens. And the ash tokens, which here I'll pull up ash tokens real quick right here. So we got ash tokens and Aether ash wings. Her whole plan is you want to be pitching red cards to make these ash tokens, and these are going to allow us to make things like ash wings, which are little 1/1 dragons, or play our invocations, which will turn into big dragons, which are very, very powerful. But with that, so the whole point of her is we're going to be making some cool dragons, which is always fun. Everybody loves dragons. Come on. Alright, so first off, her weapon. This is her only choice. It gives all your dragon allies once per turn that they get to attack, which is very important. And then the other thing she does, besides just making ash, which synergizes with this weapon, is whenever you've played a red card, all your dragons will have go again, which is very big. So if you have like 5 dragons out, you can attack with 5 different dragons, which is a lot of damage. But there is a downside. Those ash tokens, these ash tokens do give everything that you summon with them Phantasm. So if your opponent blocks with a 6 or more attack, it will destroy your dragon and end your turn, unless you have other ways to stop them, which we will get into that. But so for the core of the deck, you're going to be running, it's the only option for a weapon unless you want to run Talishar, which by all means, if you'd like to, you can. It would be pretty funny if you find a good Talishar Dromai list, send it my way. Sounds like a fun time. But essentially, because we need to pitch and play so many red cards, we're mostly going to be a red line deck, which if we go look at the deck over here and look at the stats, I have put 57 red cards in this deck. Not so many on the blue side. So, because we need those red cards to be able to generate ash, to be able to make dragons. But for the headpiece for this deck, I have found that I like Crown of Providence a lot more than Arcanite Skullcap, which I would run only one or the other. I don't think there's any other good headpiece to run. If you're looking for a budget headpiece, I would say just go with your gut feeling. Probably just run like an Iron Rot helmet, Iron Hide helmet would be good, which if you guys don't know what that is, this is Iron Hide, which is all the equipment that you can pay 1 when you block with them to get 2 armor, which synergizes with Dromai to get you some ash tokens. So if you can't afford any of these legendaries, Iron Hide are great options instead, just because they can help you with that generation. But Crown of Providence, I like a lot. It makes it so if you get stuck with a hand with a bunch of dragons or something and you don't have any way to make ash, you can block with Crown, put in a dragon on the bottom, draw a card, and hopefully draw something to make some ash and then get some dragons out. Or if your arsenal is a dead card, you can block with this, get rid of your arsenal to draw a card. And it's just all around such a good equipment. If you can get yourself a hold of this, which is a very popular card right now, I definitely recommend it. And then for legs, there's really no other legs to run for this deck. You just gotta run Phantasmal Footsteps. They're just so good. But like I said, they're hard to get a hold of. They're very pricey. If you can't afford these, I recommend running either Ironhide or Silent Stilettos, which is another leg piece that came out in the new set, just common. Essentially does what you need it to do, but there's really no replacement for footsteps. So Footsteps, for anybody who hasn't been playing very much recently, it is a piece of armor that you can block with and pay 1 to give it 1 defense. So it's very good for pitching for Dromai to get some early Ash. So that helps a lot. And then if a card with Phantasm is destroyed, you can pay 1 to get an action point, which is really good with a few of our attack action cards. Very synergistic. Especially because when you pay that 1, you get another Ash. You're going to hear me say Ash a lot. Lots of Ash. But yeah, essentially it is the only boots you can really run in this deck. It is just so powerful, so good. Just insanely strong. And then for arms, I'm, for most matchups, going to be running Silken Form. I am just going to be going over the main deck first, and then we'll go over to this little sideboard section after I get through the main deck. But for the main deck, I prefer Silken Form. It is very strong. You've got an ability to just make an Ashwing, which is really good. And then you have Quell 1, which is a new mechanic, which essentially is a replacement effect that allows you to prevent 1 damage for 1 resource, which is very strong, especially against, let's say you're playing against another Dromai and they attack you with 5 1/1s. You can quell all 5 of those dragons, maybe make some Ash in the process. Obviously that costs 5 resources, which is a lot in this deck, but it is an option for in case you're in a very tough spot. And then you get to make an Ashwing after you're done with it, which is really nice. Ashwings are good. Very good. But that's about it for the Silken Form. It's just a solid arm piece. Very good for this deck. And then I've really liked Findel Spring Tunic. I think it is very strong in this deck. Allows you to do many things with your turns that the counterpart, which is Flamescale Furnace, doesn't allow you to do. But the only downside is this card is weaker into aggro. So if you're playing against a bunch of aggro decks where you need to block more, you're not going to be running this. You're pretty much going to be running this into matchups where you plan on having hands to play. If you're going to be blocking a lot, I don't think you need the Tunic. I think you need the extra block, and that's where you're going to not be running Tunic. But for every other matchup, you're going to love Tunic. It is so powerful, so good. I've loved it so much. Alright, so that's it for the equipment. Let's get into our first attack. So I'm running 3 red Billowing Mirages. Oh, and I am so sorry, I forgot to say at the beginning, I will have a link in the description of the deck list, so you can come out and check it out at any time you'd like, and see if I make any edits along the way. I'm always editing my decks, so if you ever see an edit on there, message me and ask me why I made that edit. If you're ever really curious or confused, maybe I'll make another video about it. You never know. But, so I'm running 3 red Billowing Mirage. This is just a solid 1 for 3 go again. And it also blocks for 3, which is very, very good. But we're mostly running this because you can spend 1 resource, make an Ashwing, attack for, well, make an Ash token, sorry, when you attack with it, if you pitched a red. And then you can immediately turn that into an Ashwing if you want, or leave it around to be able to play a dragon. But all around, just a solid card, very good. And then we're running 3 Dunebreaker Senpai. It's essentially just as good as Mirage, just instead of making Ashwings, we're only using this to make Ash. But it's a 1 for 5, which 5 is a lot of damage at some points in the game. But if it does have Phantasm, which is slightly downside, but you have Footsteps in case they decide to pop it. And if they do pop it, you get another Ash token. So let's say they pop it, you can pay 1 to get your action point back, and you get to make 3 Ash essentially. You pitched 1 to play it, paid 1 for your Footsteps, and then you get 1 when it's destroyed. That's 3 Ash for 3 cards, and you got a popper out of their hand. That's really good. Really good card. Very solid. And then another red attack we're running is 3 Dust Up. I have loved this card. It's a 0 for 4. When it hits, you create an Ash token, and then you can transform an Ash into an Aether Ashwing. This is just a very good card to end your turn with. Let's say you just have some Ashwings out. You attack with like 4 Ashwings after playing like a red Rake the Embers, which we'll get into that card. You can attack with a bunch of Ashwings, and then at the end of your turn, you just Dust Up for 4. If your opponents don't block it, that's just more value for you. But there's also a nice little combo that I'll get into very shortly here that is very nice with Dust Up. And then let's get into our first dragon. So invoke Asvali. So I don't know if I can switch this over. Nope. Here. Let's go over to here for the dragons. I think we can just type in dragon and I can show you all of their separate sides. Let's see if we can just add them in. Oh yeah, here we go. Just so you guys can see what they do. Because I know you guys would like to see this. Alright. And I'll fix that before I post this. Alright, so where's our dragons at? Alright, so we'll go down here for the dragons. So let's get into what the dragons are. So Asvali. Asvali is a 2 attack for 3 health dragon that costs 0. And whenever he attacks, you get to do 1 arcane damage to up to 2 targets. So Asvali is very good because he is just a dragon that costs 0, which enables your go again for the turn, and is a dragon on top of it, which is very nice. And if you're playing against other dragons, you can shoot this arcane damage at other dragons. So it helps you get those little 1 extra damage breakpoints that are very hard to come by sometimes, and allows you to push that little extra damage and get in there. And then onto the next dragon. This is a dragon I like to run. I've seen a lot of lists that don't like it, but I have loved this card. Reason being is because it costs 3, if you see up here, which can be a lot of resources in the deck, but because I'm running Tunic, it's actually not that bad. I really only ever pitch like 2 cards to it. Or if I have a blue in hand, I just pitch a blue. But he's really not that hard to get out that people keep saying he is hard to get out. But I think he's very good. He's a 4 attack, which is a lot of attack for dragons. He's got 7 HP, but there's a downside, but it's also an upside. He has 7 HP, but whenever he deals or is dealt damage, he gets a counter and you create an ash. So he is very good because he just creates ash on his own. And normally you're going to make 2 or 3 ashes when you just play him, which is really good. So you're just always threatening those extra ash every turn, which synergize with your entire deck. And it just is so good. I just love it. And then we're going to go into the next dragon, Kyloria. He is super strong. He costs 1, and he's a 4 with 2 health. 2 health for good reason. Whenever he hits a hero, you gain control of an item they control. So super strong against dash. And if you don't gain control of an item this way, you get to draw a card. So he is just super powerful because he's always threatening that 4 go again on hit. If you've ever played against the card Snatch, which is 0 for 4 draw card, he's essentially a snatch on a stick. And he has go again most of the time. It's just so powerful. Who doesn't love drawing cards? Especially in decks that have very few resources. Drawing cards is great. Everybody loves it. But just such a good dragon. And then a dragon that helps out a lot with Kyloria. Oh yeah, and I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, don't forget, every single dragon we're talking about, even with all these powerful effects, all of them do have Phantasm. So here's the first dragon that helps with that. This is Miragai, and he costs 1 for a 2 attack, 4 health. Your first dragon attack every turn loses and can't gain Phantasm. This is very powerful because you have some very good on-attack triggers like Kyloria when he hits. We'll get into the Majestic Dragons, which are very powerful on attacks. And them not being able to pop them means they have to block. Like, Kyloria essentially makes them have to use a defense react, or they need to block with 1 card in equipment, or 2 cards, or you're going to get to draw a card. And they don't want you to draw a card, I promise you. I promise, they don't want you to draw a card. But it's just very good. Every single turn, you get a free attack, essentially, which is super strong with Miragai. And then we're going to go into Thamai. Thamai is a 2-drop dragon with 3 attack and 4 HP. And Thamai is very strong against certain decks that play a lot of defense reactions or a lot of instants. Because what she does is she makes it so opponents can't play cards or activate abilities during your turn. So, sorry Kano players, but you can't combo off on my turn unless you get rid of Thamai. If I play this card against a Kano player, I'm pretty sure they're going to be pretty sad, because Kano does not have a great time not being able to play on my turn. That's for sure. But all around, I don't think there's much to be said about Thamai. Essentially, it is a card that is just so good against every deck that plays instants. Every single deck. And a lot of decks are playing instants nowadays with Oasis Respite being in the meta, and Sync Belows are just super relevant right now. So she's very good against those style decks. Now let's get into our first Majestic Dragon, which is Tolmentai. Tomeltai, sorry. I don't know why I said Tolmentai. I don't have that much dyslexia. So whenever Tomeltai attacks, reveal the top 2 cards to your deck. If one or more are red cards, you put that many -1 counters on an equipment they control. If it has 0, destroy it. And he's a 5/5. He does cost 5 resources though, which is a lot of resources in this deck, but for good reason. Let's say you're playing against an old him, and you slam Tolmentai down, and you just hit 1 red off the top 2, which is very unlikely that you don't. You get to destroy their Crown of Seeds, or you can destroy their Findel Spring Tunic. Just such a powerful effect. It is just insanely powerful. And if you have a Mirror Guy out as well, he's not going to have Phantasm. So they're going to have to find a way to kill him next turn, or he's going to rip apart their equipment. And we all know we love keeping our equipment around, but he's just going to rip them apart. Just insane. I would say he is the best dragon in the entire deck. Hands down. So strong. So strong. If he goes unchecked, you honestly pretty much win the game. If your opponent doesn't have equipment, you're in such a good spot. It's insane. But let's go to the next one, which is another fan favorite of mine, Uvia. So she's a 2-drop. She's a 2-drop 1/6. At the start of your turn, or when she enters the arena, you get to transform an Ash into an Ashwing. So let's go back to Necria. So Necria makes Ash. Uvia uses that Ash. So you're actually going to have a really good synergy right here, and you're going to be able to flood the board with Aether Ashwings if this goes unchecked, which is super powerful, because if there's too many Ashwings out, there's not enough poppers in the game to stop an army of Ashwings. Because if they're spending cards every turn your Ashwings and you're able to block them out, it's really hard for them to come back from that. Just super strong go wide strategy. I just have loved it so much. And she's very hard to kill. 6 HP is a lot of HP for something that they have to attack. Alright, so let's go into the second and the last Majestic Dragon I'm running. The third Majestic Dragon I am not running in this build because it just doesn't fit. But I am running Dominia, which is a 4-drop 4/4. Whenever Dominia attacks a hero specifically, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a red card, you get to look at their hand and banish a card. So this effect is very powerful because a lot of decks in the game only have around 1 popper in hand at a time. Unless you're playing against like Guardian or Brute, which at that point they're going to have a lot of poppers, and you're just going to have to accept that. And you're going to have to play around it with a lot of Ashwings. But essentially, Dominia allows you to look at their hand, and if they have the 1 popper in hand, you can just rip it out of their hand, and they don't have a popper for the turn, and you just get to attack them with all your dragons, which is super strong. But also, let's say they don't have any poppers in hand, you just get to take away like a blue, squander their resources, which is huge, or just take the best card out of their hand. It is just insane power level. But to be fair, it does cost 4. You only get to run 1, and you do have to reveal a red. But they can easily kill it. It's 4 HP, which isn't too much. And but the one turn it happens can end the game if you've set up your deck correctly to play her last and just attack with an army of dragons behind her. If they don't have the poppers, they can't kill her, you know? And then the last dragon we will be running is Dromai. Dromai is probably one of the best dragons as well in the game. Dromai costs 0, and whenever Dromai attacks or leaves the arena, you gain an action point. And I don't know why I can't go all the way down. Sorry. It's just not letting me go down. So it's a 3-2. So it does have 3 attack and 2 defense, and it costs 0. So it's just very powerful. It's especially powerful if, let's say, you draw a Dromai with a mirror guy. You can pitch 1, play mirror guy, and then play your Dromai, and your opponent has to have 2 poppers to end your turn. Because you're going to attack with Dromai first, no Phantasm, and you're going to get 2 action points total from your Go Again and Dromai trigger. And then, if they don't have 2 poppers, you just get to attack with everything, which is huge. It's really hard to deal with that. So that's going to be like one of your main combos in the deck against decks that have a lot of poppers, which is very important to get used to. You're going to need a lot of reps on this deck to be able to get it down correctly. But it is super powerful, and I love it. I love these dragons. These are the dragons I'm running. I haven't found room for any other dragons currently. I'm more of a go wide strategy with Ashwains with a couple support dragons. But let's get into the support for these dragons. So we've already gone over a few cards. We went over these 9 red attacks here. And then these are just the invocation sides of the dragons. I don't know why I didn't put just the normal dragons in, but these are the invoke sides. And now let's get into the rest of the main deck. So we're going to be running 3 Oasis Respites, which is the new... It's kind of a defense reaction, kind of not, because it's better. You pay 1 instant speed, prevent the next 4 damage from a source that would deal damage to a hero to your turn until end of turn. And then if you have less life than each other hero, you gain a life. So this is essentially pay 1, gain a life, block 4 damage most of the time, which is really good against decks that go 0 for 4, like 5 for example. Very, very powerful against them. And then another thing that's very powerful against is Rune Blade because of Rosetta Thorn. So how Rosetta Thorn reads is Rosetta Thorn does 2 physical and 2 arcane at this, and because of how Oasis Respite works, it prevents the next 4 that source would do, which is Rosetta. So you actually prevent both the physical and the arcane just by using Oasis Respite, which is very, very relevant if it's close to the end of the game and you're at, like, let's say 3 HP. And they try to Rosetta you down. That's only 1 card that gets rid of their Rosetta damage. Very, very, very good. And then also, because it's an instant, it gets around Dominate, so you can block from hand and then play Oasis Respite, which is even from hand. You don't have to arsenal this, so that is a very strong thing to do. Alright, so the next card is we are running 3 Ravenous Rabbles. This is very good because it's a little bit aggressive, which we like a little bit of aggression in our deck. And then it's a 0-drop red card that gives all our dragons Go Again. And we love Go Again. Go Again is great. But that's pretty much all it is. It's just a little extra aggression and gets our Go Again going without having to spend any resources. Very good for a red line deck. And then in the main deck, we're running 6 Rake the Embers, 3 reds, 3 blues. The red Rake the Embers, the difference between the blues and the reds are how many ashes you can transform into Aetherwains. And the reds can make 3. So these reds are very useful. You need to just build up some ash and then play the reds to make 3 Ashwains. You don't really ever want to play them if you're not making 3 Ashwains. Sometimes you can do them just to make 2, but usually you want to, if you can, make 3. But then the blue Rake the Embers, are really nice because you can pitch them to make you can pitch to make 2 ash essentially. Every time you play these, you're essentially going to make 2 ash because they create an ash first, and you're usually going to pitch a red into them, so you'll make 2 ash. The blues will make 1 ash wing and an extra ash token, which is nice. So then you can make an ash wing and get an ash to be able to play a invocation. Very, very nice effect. These are a must include. I don't think you run a single list without running these 6. The argument is whether or not you run yellows, which we have in sideboard, and we will go over those later. But the next red we're running is Sigil of Solace. Just very good card. Gains you 3 life, which helps you live longer, which we need to live longer to be able to play more dragons. And then on top of it, it's an instant that you can play on your turn to activate your dragons. So then they can all have go again. Yay, more things to give go again. But that's pretty much it for Sigil. You can even arsenal it. You don't have to play it if you want to save it to give go again another turn. Just very powerful. 0, gain 3 life, give everything go again. Then we're running 6 Sweeping Blows. This card's a very good ash generator. So when you attack with Sweeping Blow, you create an ash token, and it has go again. And it costs 1. So usually you're making 2 ash tokens when you play this card. You pitch a red, play Sweeping Blow, make 2 ash tokens. But the reds come in for 3 and the blues come in for 1. But it's not really about the damage for these. These are really just mostly to make ash tokens, and the reds can trigger your dragons, which is nice. And then on to a couple big hitters. So we're running 5 Ember Moss Senpai. I've decided I like the 3 blues, 2 reds instead of 3 and 3. I feel like you don't need the 3rd red. It's very strong, but you don't need it. Difference is the power. So the reds come in for 8, blues come in for 6. But this is very good. It's a 2 for 6 on the blues. It has Phantasm, and when it's destroyed, you make an ash token. It doesn't have go again, but it's something you can do at the end of your turn, or if you have an off turn and not much to do. Swinging for 8 is not bad. But, or if, like, let's say it's turn 0 and you're going first, you can pitch 2 reds into this to force them to have to block some damage and make some ash. And if they decide to pop it, you get an additional ash token. It's just all around a solid card. It blocks decently, it pitches well, and comes in for a decent amount of damage. All around great. And then if you have a Passing Barrage out, it won't have Phantasm, which is very relevant. Alright, and then the last card in the main deck is we're running 2 Burn Them All. Now, Burn Them All isn't going to be in every single matchup, but for the most part, it's in the main deck because it's a 0 cost red, so it gives everything go again, and it does stuff. So it's a 0-drop aura with go again, and once per turn when a dragon you control attacks, it deals 1 arcane to each opposing hero, which is very nice. So your first attack every turn, essentially, you do an arcane. It's not bad, but at the beginning of your end phase, it gets a counter, and then you destroy it unless you banish a red card for each raise counter from your graveyard, which isn't too hard. But over the turns, it starts to get a little pricey. Once it hits like 4 and 5, it's a lot of red cards to banish to keep it out. But if you keep it around for 4 or 5 turns, it's essentially a 0 for 4 or 5 arcane damage. It's not bad. It's just not bad. And it blocks for 3 if you really need it to. It's just all around a solid card. Very good in the fatigue matchups where the games go very long, because it just does that little extra chip damage that's awkward for them to block. But that's it for the main deck. I have very much been enjoying playing this main deck list. It is very fun. You make a lot of ash wings, and you do a lot of damage sometimes. But let's go into the sideboard tech. So I am siding in Ghostly Touch. This is very good against decks like Guardian and Brute that have a lot of 6 hits, because they're going to be popping a lot of your dragons when you attack, and then eventually this will get big enough that you can attack them. But I guess I should read what it does. So whenever an illusionist attack you control is destroyed by Phantasm, it gets a counter. And then once per turn, you can remove a counter to make it an ally with Phantasm with attack and defense equal to attack and health, sorry, equal to the amount of haunt counters on it. So if it has 7 counters, you remove 1 down to 6 and it becomes a 6/6. And you can pay 3 to attack with, and its attack with go again, which is pretty good. Or no, sorry, this whole ability has go again. It's just pay 3 to attack. I'm sorry, misread that. I knew it didn't have go again. I don't know why I said that. But so late game you can pay 3 to attack for 6 at like the end of your turn after doing other shenanigans. And if you're putting in Ghostly Touch, you need to put in a semblance. So reason being is, let's say you get this to like 12 counters against a Guardian, you can attack for 11 with this. And if they only block with, and then if they block with a popper, and which most poppers only block for 3, so they're going to be blocking for 3 of your 11 damage, and you can in response pitch and play semblance and remove the Phantasm trigger, and now they have 8 damage hitting them because they've already declared their blocks. Super good tech, must run. I think it is super powerful into any fatigue matchup that pops things. Everything else, not so much. And then I'm running Flame Scale Furnace. I decided to put this in board because I like Tunic more in the main deck, but if you have Flame Scale Furnace and don't have Tunic, or vice versa, they're both just solid options. Furnace is really good because it blocks 3, and you can pay 1 to essentially make Ash tokens every turn with using the Furnace. It's the main reason to run it. But the fact that it blocks for 3 is really good against aggro decks like, let's say, Viscerai, Fi, Briar, anything aggressive. You're going to want this card over Tunic. I think it is very powerful, very good equipment. Alright, and then for fatigue, just any deck that you plan on going very late into the game, you want to bring in 3 yellow Rake the Embers because they allow you to make 2 more Ashwains, lets you just go wider. It's essentially adding 6 Ashwains to the deck total, which is just good. You want Ashwains, you just go wide and you just poke them for 1, and eventually they'll die. You know? You just keep attacking for 1. Just attack for 1, attack for 1. Then they'll die. Alright, and then for against decks that you expect to be bringing in a bunch of poppers against you that you think Miragai won't get around enough, you're going to want to run Passing Mirages. So you can attack a bunch in your turn and then play a Passing Mirage. And your first attack every turn will lose Phantasm. Just a very solid card for against any decks that are running a lot of poppers. And then in the board for against hyper aggro decks or against Guardian decks, we got 6 essentially defense reactions, 3 Sand Cover, 3 Sink Below. Sand Cover is very good because it gives an Ash ward 4. So if you'd be dealt damage, prevent 4 of it and destroy the Ash. Gets around Dominate, gets around a lot of different, like, let's say you're playing against Kano, gets around Arcane damage. Just very solid. Very good. Gets around Dominate. I believe I already said that. And then Sink Belows. I don't think much need to be said about these. Just a solid card in almost every deck in the format. You arsenal it against Dominate decks. Against aggressive decks, you use it to fix your hand to be able to do good stuff. But yeah, so that's the deck. I hope you guys all like it as much as I've been liking it. Please leave me comments if you decide to try the deck out, about what you liked about the deck, what you didn't like, what you would change, and give me reasons why. I love to hear reasons. I love this deck very much, so I am open to pretty much anything. I think this deck is going to change a lot over the next couple months. This is just the iteration of the deck that I have been liking, and I think will be competitively good, but I'm open to be proven wrong, you know? I could be super wrong. There's a few cards in here that I'm sure people will say, I don't know why you're not running this. And the answer is I just didn't find deck space for cards that I would rather not have over it. But yeah, please leave a comment, leave a like, and please subscribe. I hope to catch you guys at the next video, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day playing with the Dragon Lady. And I will catch you all later. Peace.